The suspect in this pipe bomb case is a male, not a female, as Glenn Beck's far-right outlet, The Blaze, published in a report last month. The Blaze claimed that, quote, a forensic analysis of a female former U.S. Capitol police officer's gait is a 94 to 98% match to the unique stride of the long-sought January 6 pipe bomb suspect, confirmed by several intelligence sources, unquote. The Blaze appears, at least based on today's actions, to have gotten that really wrong. An attorney for that woman vehemently denied the report. The Justice Department attorney denied a claim that he had determined she was the bomber. And now, weeks later, the FBI says the suspect is Brian Cole Jr., not the woman that the Blaze mentioned. I want to bring in Will Sommer of The Bulwark, who just wrote a piece titled "The Blaze's Pipe Bomb Bombshell Appears to Bomb." Well, he wrote that a few weeks ago. And Will, I guess the first question I have is, how shaky was this report to begin with? And I want to note, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because lots of Republican lawmakers and members of the Trump administration pushed this Blaze report out. So it took on a patina of respectability and authenticity because all these officials who you'd think would know better had pushed it out. So how shaky was the report to begin with?
I mean, I think to me it looked pretty suspicious, and a lot of people outside of this kind of right-wing media bubble. It was based, as you noted, nearly entirely on gait analysis, so how the suspect walked, or the person in the surveillance footage. As you said, people like Anna Paulina Luna in Congress, other members of Congress embraced it. Tulsi Gabbard, the head of intelligence, her office circulated a report saying, essentially flagging this person, this member of this woman who works for the CIA now, saying, well, maybe she's the suspect in the bombing. And so this really was embraced by right-wing media, despite, frankly, being based on very little evidence.
Meanwhile,
suspect, Brian Cole Jr., who was arrested after nearly 5 years. He's a 30-year-old black man, unless you're watching CNN.
Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device.
Why do they keep doing that? Anyway.
Boy. So we got to talk about Snake Tapper of CNN embarrassing himself when he incorrectly identified the January 6 pipe bomber as a white man. Except the January 6 pipe bomber turned out not to be white. In fact, he turned out not to fit the narrative that the mainstream liberal media obviously desperately wanted to put out there. And I want to talk about this because the reactions to the suspect that has now been arrested for allegedly planting pipe bombs near the DNC and RNC facilities, offices in Washington, D.C., he has now been taken into custody by the FBI, and I want to talk about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this embarrassing clip from Jake Tapper, who, by the way, tried to correct or to fact check The Blaze, right, for being wrong about the identity of the January 6 pipe bomber, right, when he went on air and got a very basic fact about the pipe bomber wrong, incorrect. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. After nearly 5 years of investigation, the FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion. CNN observed local and federal law enforcement outside his home in Woodbridge, Virginia this morning. Attorney General Pam Bondi gave very few details about the suspect this morning, but said this cold case has been solved.
Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. Let me be clear, there was no new tip, there was no new witness, just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work.
Now, for years, investigators have reviewed tens of thousands of video files and tips and cell phone data, and of course, that grainy surveillance video of someone disguised placing those pipe bombs, which the FBI has said were viable. That next morning on January 6, 2021, then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris came within 20 feet of the bomb at the DNC. Its discovery diverted police away from the violence that was unfolding at the Capitol at the time. CNN's Brian Todd is outside the suspect's house in Woodbridge, Virginia. And Brian, officials today were rather short on details. They wouldn't really discuss the charges or the evidence or motives. What do we know about the suspect?
Well, Jake, we do have some new information tonight from neighbors in this area of Woodbridge, Virginia, about their previous interactions with the suspect, identified as Brian Cole. He lived just behind me down in this cul-de-sac here where police have kind of cordoned off the neighborhood. We've got new information from neighbors about their interactions with him, but also one dramatic account from one neighbor who witnessed the convergence of law enforcement on his house firsthand this morning from fairly close. The neighbor did not want to give his name, but has a pretty compelling account of it. Take a listen.
A bunch of soldier-looking guys, maybe SWAT team, people in camouflage with automatic rifles aimed at the house. And on the loudspeaker, they said, "This is the FBI. We have a federal search warrant. Please, everyone in such and such address, come out of the house with your hands up." I saw what I believe was a woman come out of the house, but they didn't seem to take her into custody. And then a little while later, another, I think, woman came out of the house, but they didn't seem to take her into custody either. And then after that, they prepared to go into the house, and they all had their rifles at the ready, and then they moved into the house.
And that neighbor just said he did not actually witness the suspect being brought out of the house, but he gave that account pretty dramatic there of when they converged on the house at about 8:30 this morning Eastern time. Also talking to neighbors about their previous interactions with the suspect, identified as Brian Cole Jr. They said they often saw him out in the neighborhood walking his Chihuahua, but that he was a very reclusive figure, never really interacted with people, almost was antisocial, in the words of one neighbor. They described him walking his Chihuahua for long walks frequently, several times a day, sometimes even at maybe 2 in the morning. One neighbor said he would never make eye contact with you. He would always wear headphones, never speak to you except to say hello. One neighbor had kind of a quirky account of him, saying that what stood out to him about the suspect was that even in the deadest of winter, in the coldest days, he'd be out in his shorts with red Crocs walking his dog. But a very reclusive figure is the picture we're getting of the suspect, even though he came from a family that a neighbor said was fairly friendly.
Yeah, so I think that last part about him walking around outside with red Crocs and shorts on in cold weather, right? I think that's the whitest part about this guy. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that sounds white about this guy. But other than that, this dude is not white, right? He's not white. Not even close to white, okay? He's black as hell, okay? He's black. And for whatever reason, Jake Tapper felt the need to identify him as a white guy. Now, why did Jake Tapper do that? Well, the reason why Jake Tapper did that is because, again, the narrative that the media wants to put out there about stuff like this is that domestic terrorism is a white man's issue, right? That is what the media wants to put out there. So the reason why he said that instinctively is because that's what they want to say, right? The last thing that they wanted to see when the suspect's photo came out, his identity came out, is that he was a black guy, right? That he was not white. Because all of them just assumed that the suspect would be white. And they could not wait to say, well, see, the January 6th pipe bomber, which, by the way, we got to talk about why in the world did it take so long to get this guy in the first place, right? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But again, the last thing that they really wanted to see is that the suspect was black, right?
Also not going to look over the obvious, which is that guy's black and he's not constructing a gallows to hang Mike Pence in favor of Donald Trump. We're not going to just skip over that fact, right? They're not going to, pardon him. He's not part of the storming the Capitol in favor of Donald Trump.
Yeah. So again, that's what they're worried about, right? They're like, well, this dude is black, so therefore he's not going to get a pardon from Trump, right? And it's like, well, I think he's not getting a pardon because he planted pipe bombs near the RNC and DNC, right? He was a domestic terrorist, and he tried to essentially blow up a facility where, a lot of politicians would be around. I believe that CNN reported that Kamala Harris was in the area. And, very bad things could have happened had those explosives went off. But again, the real question is, why is it that the Biden administration, why didn't they look into this, right? Why is it that they put this on the back burner instead of prioritizing this act of domestic terrorism. Again, maybe it's because they knew that the suspect didn't fit the narrative, right? That this suspect wasn't some white, Christian, right-wing, pro-MAGA, Trump supporter extremist, right? They kind of knew that, and they were like, yeah, you know what? This doesn't fit the narrative because, you know, to me, planting these pipe bombs around January 6th, to me, suggests that, again, this guy did it in order to try to pin it on Trump supporters, right? Oh, that Trump supporters did this, okay? And when the Biden administration found out that, you know, it's likely a Trump supporter didn't do this, right? You know, they say, you know, we're good on this. We don't really want to talk about how a guy like this would commit an act of domestic terrorism. But according to Democrats on BS Now, they're blaming Trump, right? It's actually the Trump administration's fault that this guy wasn't caught earlier, even though Biden was in office for 4 years and didn't do anything about this. But Trump has only been in office for like 9 months, and they already caught the guy that Biden didn't catch in 4 years.
But I got to tell you, it kind of makes me, looking at this crowd doing a victory lap, when all the senior FBI officials across all key divisions have been fired for political purposes, when in some field offices up to 45% of the FBI officers who were doing things like counter-espionage and cyber have been assigned to do immigration cases. It's a little rich that they're saying they're American safer. How much earlier could we have caught this guy if resources hadn't been diverted? And I hope it would also remind folks that on January 6th, I was here at the Capitol on January 6th. It was an ugly, awful day. And this administration and this president basically pardoned all the perpetrators. You know, it's that kind of picking and choosing of facts from this crowd that makes me a little bit crazy. Now to the question of...
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Democrats have no shame whatsoever. And the saddest part about it is that their audience, MSDNC, BS Now, they just eat it up. They just eat it up. They eat up nonsense. It's like what this dude is saying is nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. It took the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ, 9 months. Biden had 4 years, and he didn't catch the guy, right? They didn't catch the guy. They didn't get the guy. Now, presumably, Biden had all the resources directed in the areas that this guy claims that the FBI should be directing resources, right? But despite all that, they still didn't catch him. The Trump DOJ, FBI, apparently they got all their resources directed towards illegals, according to this guy. And, you know, that's the reason why he wasn't caught sooner, even though Biden had 4 years to catch the guy and didn't catch him. It's amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. They can't just say, you know what, the administration did a good job. Hey, you know, Biden should have caught this guy earlier. The Trump administration did good. They just can't say it. They cannot admit that the Trump administration did something good. They just can't do it. So, with that being said, Jake Tapper is getting absolutely roasted for calling black DC pipe bomb suspect Brian Cole Jr. a white man on air. Now, we don't really know that much about this guy yet. Okay, there's a lot of speculation about this dude and his ideology, but we really don't know. Okay, and once we learn more about his ideology, my gut feeling tells me that's not going to fit the narrative, right? And that this story is going to go away very quickly, right? The liberal media is not really going to want to talk about this. So let's get into it. CNN anchor Jake Tapper was ripped by critics Thursday after he wrongly referred to accused DC pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr. as, quote, a white man. Tapper made the cringe-worthy gaffe while discussing the arrest of Cole, who is black, during his opening segment on The Lead. Quote, his white man comment came at 5:01 p.m. around the time CNN was the first outlet to publish a photo of Cole's face that originated from the suspect's mother's Instagram account. Yeah, so again, I don't think this was a gaffe. I think that Jake Tapper just assumed the dude was white because that's the narrative that they wanted, right? I believe that that's exactly what happened because we already know if they thought that the suspect was black, they would never emphasize that the suspect was black. Right? We know this. Any time the suspect is black, they never tell us. Why? Because they don't want us to believe that, you know, crimes are being committed by black people, right? But they do want us to believe that domestic terrorism, again, is an issue that is common amongst white men, right? That is what they want you to believe. And because they want you to believe that, they have no issues saying that, right? In fact, they're going to jump the gun prematurely, as Jake Tapper did, and say this guy is white because they just can't imagine a black guy planting pipe bombs at DNC and RNC facilities, right? They can't imagine that on January 6th, being a part of January 6th. They can't imagine that. So again, that's why he said it. He already had a preconceived conclusion that the suspect was white. That's why he said it, right? It's really that simple. Cole's father, who is also black and once listed the services of Ben Crump, an attorney best known for his racial discrimination cases. Viewers were stunned by Tapper's misrepresentation of the alleged pipe bomber. Quote, "You can't make this stuff up," conservative pundit Benny Johnson wrote on X. Quote, "Jake is sharp as a tack. Nothing gets past him. Dude's elite." Another deadpan. Quote, "It's impossible that he does not know what he is doing," one user speculated. Conservative influencer Nick Saunter accused CNN of pushing, quote, anti-white rhetoric. But others were more understanding. Quote, "Not a fan of Jake, but the guy's name is Brian. That may be a top 3 white name. So understandable mistake," one user joked. Quote, "Clearly, he never looked at the graphics, probably just read a script," another suggested. Yeah, I mean, that could be a part of it as well, too, right? Just reading the script, that could be it. I just know that this is a part of the narrative that they wanted to push. So regardless of if Jake Tapper just, said that because that's what he thought or said that because that was on his script, doesn't matter, right? I mean, the reasoning behind it is all the same. We all know why they said it. Cole was arrested at his home in Woodbridge, Virginia, early Thursday morning. The 30-year-old was charged with the use of an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. Authorities claim that Cole was the mystery man who planted pipe bombs at the Republican and Democratic National Committees in Washington, D.C. on January 5th, 2021, the night before Congress certified the 2020 electoral votes. Yeah, so I personally believe that this was a setup to try to pin it on Trump supporters. Okay, this guy knew that Trump supporters would be in town. A pipe bomb goes off on January 6th. A bunch of politicians get killed, or political individuals get killed, and then they can say, "Oh, see, this happened because of Trump. This happened because of MAGA." That is my guess in regards to the motive here, okay, and why this person did it. The investigation went virtually nowhere for 5 years as U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel both asserted that the Biden administration had crucial evidence collecting dust while the suspect roamed free. Yeah, I believe that. And again, the reason is obvious, right? It's obvious because it didn't fit the narrative. The Trump administration leaped on the investigation and swiftly renewed the $500,000 reward for information that would lead to an arrest, though the sum will go uncollected since federal authorities did the heavy lifting. Authorities suspect that Cole began constructing the crude bombs encased in 8-inch galvanized pipes as early as 2019. They claim he hopped between big-name hardware stores and mass retailers like Walmart to purchase items needed to make the bombs. Cole continued purchasing bomb-making components even after he allegedly placed 2 in the nation's capital, according to a criminal complaint. Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Yeah, I personally believe that Biden put this investigation on the back burner, didn't want to really move forward with it because, again, the last thing that they would want is to disrupt the precious liberal media narrative about what happened on January 6th, right? The last thing they would want to put out there is that, well, some lunatic tried to set up January 6th to make it seem like Trump supporters planted bombs at these facilities, right? That is the last thing that they would want, right? And let's be real. The reason why I'm saying this is because if this guy was a Trump supporter, okay, they would have arrested the guy, right? He would have been arrested. And they would have used this guy as evidence and proof that, see, these people are violent, okay? That they're domestic terrorists. This would have been a wet dream for the Biden administration if this guy was actually a Trump supporter. If this guy fit the narrative, it would have been a wet dream. It would have been 4 years of masturbation material for Democrats and mainstream liberal media. Could you guys imagine if this dude was actually white and a Trump supporter? They would have loved this, right? But turns out this guy didn't fit the narrative. Again, my gut feeling is that his ideology is not right-leaning, right? Not MAGA, okay? And because of that, again, that's why the Biden administration said, we're going to leave this guy alone, right? We're going to let him roam free, even though, you know, he clearly is a domestic terrorist. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.